Hello food forest gardeners, and welcome back to the garden. Today I'm going to do another species spotlight, and this is on what I think is the best nut tree for Florida. The pecan tree certainly is a wonderful nut tree for Florida, but it just takes so long for them to grow and produce. This tree produces nuts within 3 years sometimes. Certainly within 3 to 5 years you're going to get nuts. We're talking about the Dunstan chestnut. This is just a small one that I planted a few months back, and let me explain why I love this tree so much for North Florida food forests. The tree was actually a hybrid between the American chestnut and a Chinese chestnut. It's got characteristics of each, so it's not the giant tree that the American chestnut was. And if you didn't know, the American chestnut tree was the biggest tree in the eastern United States. It dominated the forests. The blight came along in the very early 1900s, and this was a blight that came from Asian trees that were imported into the United States. These Asian trees have a lot of resistance against the blight, but the American chestnut trees did not. And it wiped them out. There's been a lot of activity going on trying to bring back the American chestnut, and they're starting to have a little bit of success with that. But it went from being the most dominant, biggest tree in the eastern U.S. To just basically almost completely wiped out, and the white oak has pretty much taken its place as the biggest, most dominant tree in a lot of the eastern forests. White pine is also another big, giant, dominant tree in those eastern forests. But getting back to the chestnut here, the Chinese tree came from warmer climates than where the American chestnut grows, or grew, and still does grow. There's a little bit of it still around. But back when the American chestnut was widespread, before the blight came along, Florida was really too far south for that tree. It was North Florida was at the southern edge of its natural range. It just didn't get enough chill hours to grow down here in Florida, and it grew from extreme North Florida all the way up, I believe all the way up into Canada. And so by making a hybrid tree between the Chinese tree and the American tree, what they did was they gave this hybrid species, the form at least, the Dunstan chestnut, it gave it a lot of those characteristics of the Chinese chestnut tree. So it's able to grow here in Florida. It's a smaller tree. It's not the big tree like the American chestnut. The Chinese chestnut tree is a smaller tree. So the hybrid between the two ends up being about a 40 to 60 foot tall tree. That's what we're looking at here, and about 30 to 40 feet wide. It does have that blight resistance. So this has American chestnut genes in it, as well as Chinese chestnut. And so it's got a really nice big nut, similar to what you'd get from an American chestnut tree. So it's kind of ironic that the blight that wiped out the American chestnuts is what led to us being able to grow productive chestnut trees down here in Florida. Let's see, the tree will bear fruit, like I said, within about 3 to 5 years usually. This hybrid tree grows really well in zones 6 through 9A. So 6 and 7, that's outside of Florida, but zone 8A and 8B and 9A, all in Florida, this tree will grow. What you want to do with this though is you want to avoid frost pockets or any low spots, really for a couple of reasons, frost being one of them. If it's in a low spot, it could be damaged by late frost. It would damage the flowers and limit your productivity. Another problem with that is these trees do not like wet, soggy roots. So they need really good drainage. they'll get root rot if they're planted in low spots that don't drain well. If you have any doubt about your spot, your location where you want to plant this, build a mound and plant this tree up on that mound so that those roots can stay well drained. The tree needs about 400 to 600 chill hours. And this is why zone 9B is really starting to stretch it for this tree, because it's rare that you'd get that many chill hours in 9B. I'm pushing it myself right here. I'm right around the edge of 9A and 9B. So my two Dunstan chestnuts here, I may have some productive years and some years that aren't so productive. Let's see, these trees really love our Florida sand. These were developed in Alachua, Florida, just up near Gainesville, Florida. So they were developed in an area with Florida sand, and they grow really well in our sand. Again, they like well-drained roots, and the sand will do that for them. Once they're established, they're quite drought tolerant. But a little bit of timely irrigation when it's really, really dry will help get better nut production out of these trees. They like a lot of mulch, so for mine here, I've mulched it some, but they really don't like competing with turf grasses. So in the next year, I will be expanding my mulch zone around this tree quite a bit, because they like a real deep mulch and they don't like competing with turf grass. They flower in late spring, and by about September or October, your nuts are ready to be harvested. As soon as that burr opens, revealing all those nuts inside, you want to grab them then, because at that point the squirrels are going to be trying to get them. It's going to be a competition between you and the squirrels to get those nuts. I really like chestnuts a lot. They're very different from other nuts. They're sort of more like a little potato. You know, they're less oily and a little bit more carbohydrate-y. And so they don't have a long shelf life. Once you harvest these, you want to keep them in your refrigerator, and I like to just roast them and eat them as soon as possible. And they can be eaten raw as well. So I guess that's it. The Dunstan chestnut, excellent nut tree for north and north central Florida food forests. That's it for today, y'all. Take care and happy gardening.